Vassos, it's over to you.
Our next guest is an ex-tennis pro and one of the greatest tennis players of all time and one of the greatest sports people of all time and just generally and specifically wonderful. Her new book, Strive, 8 Steps to Train for Success, is out now. So please welcome the genius, Venus Williams!
We can't believe you're here. We can't believe you're here.
Clap, clap.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning. I've never been called a genius before. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're a goat. You're greatest of all time. You're a genius. This book is fantastic.
Thank you.
Well done. Strive, 8 Steps to Train for Success. So many questions, which is good because it's an interview, so that's how we're going to roll here.
Exactly. Let's do it.
First of all, I want to be a bit nosy. I want to know about this 3-week wellness retreat that you went on.
Oh.
Because it's in the book, isn't it?
It is in the book. You know, I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease in 2011.
Yep.
And it was quite a shocker. And my sister Serena, she says, you should go to this wellness center right in West Palm Beach where I live. And we go, my sister Isha's here. Hey, Isha. We go together. We sign up for 1 week and we get there, we go to orientation and we find out it's all raw vegan. So no cooked food, only vegetables. So we look at each other and we're like, you want to go get a steak?
So you escaped.
We went to go get a steak right after orientation. We had steak. We didn't even eat dessert. We had like chocolate fondue cakes. We ordered everything we could. And then we went on in and we ended up extending it every week. So the second week and then we went the third week. And it actually was kind of like a life change program. We learned so much about food, our food system, your immune system. That's right. You know, all in your gut. So it was life changing. I'm no longer a raw vegan. I'm a cheating vegan now.
Yeah.
And I call it a Chegan and living my best life.
I've never heard Chegan before. Because you've got a lot of plant-based action going on around the show. I was plant-based for about 18 months. My wife was plant-based until last week, bizarrely. You're a Chegan then. Are you okay now? You're in good company.
Yeah, I would call myself a vegan because I'm basically vegan, but sometimes the lines blur, don't they?
They do, and you got to do the best you can. I call it the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you're good, and 20% of the time it might be a chicken wing. So you do what you got to do. But plant-based, I think that the definition we have to loosen up on that. That's when I say most of your plate is plants and then whatever else, grains, and then, you know, some lean meats, and then some fun sometimes too.
Yeah, and you know, it's the best way to get protein into your body is with the lean meats, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing, and protein is so important for you. And if you just eat protein without doing anything else, you actually, even at my age, you will still put on muscle without even exercising. And if you exercise and you eat the right amount of protein or the right type of protein, then it's all the better for it. And as we get older, we know that flexibility and strength are the two most important things.
Important. There's so many ways to get protein too, like beans, sprouts, plant-based protein powders.
Lots of nuts.
Yes.
All the nuts.
All the nuts in the world. Don't become a nut, but
he says, "What are you, a vegan?" Right. So you're a Chegan. You're a vegan.
Vaguely vegan.
He only fessed up to not being vegan when I caught him here. Stood in the fridge, like, so he opened, Venus, this is a true story, right? So he opens the fridge door, right? He then gets some milk, a carton of milk, and stands in the fridge as much as he can to sneakily drink the milk.
Oh, he was thirsty. Leave him alone.
I can't leave him alone. It's my job to not leave him alone. And I said to him on the show, I said, what are you doing? And he went, oh, not you. Oh, no, anybody but you. It's true though, isn't it?
I was really starving and I really needed some calories, and I thought, do you know what? A bit of dairy.
3 weeks in this retreat, round the corner from where you live. But you were the steak queen, weren't you?
Was I the steak queen?
Well, you say in the book, your motto used to be, bring me steak or bring me death or something.
Oh, I thought you said state queen. I was like, we have no queens in Florida.
No, sorry, steak.
What in the world?
Steak. You have many queens.
Oh my God, yeah.
You loved it. Do you still have a steak now?
Every now and then, a bite or two.
Yeah.
I try to, stick to my guns.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with, like, if your body feels like, having it, go for it.
The microbiome, we talk about the microbiome, you know, and if you feed your microbiome enough of the good stuff, it will then crave the good stuff. And that's a really strange moment, isn't it?
Yeah, because you train your mind and your body, right? So we need to feed our microbiome lots of fiber. You know, our diets don't have enough fiber these days. So a lot of times the easiest way to get fiber is in a smoothie, maybe. Yeah. Don't juice it, you know, keep all the fiber in there. Yeah. Eat some beans, legumes, things like that. Yeah. And in our fast-paced lives where we eat packaged foods, it can get challenging, but you've got to make the effort.
So smoothie, smooth, soothe. You have a chapter on soothing. I mean, I love the book. I love the book. I read these books for a living, these kind of books, right? I've never seen a chapter on self-soothing. It's brilliant. Venus.
Thank you so much.
Tell us about soothing. Various different ways you can do it.
Well, I mean, we live in a world that's beautiful but challenging, right? Yeah. So you've got to figure out ways to soothe yourself, especially as an adult, right? Yeah. We've got to navigate this world. And I wanted to write about, you know, all the things that I learned on the court and how I applied them off of the court too. And you'd find it interesting, but in the matches, you have to soothe yourself.
I know.
There's a lot of rocky moments. I mean, right down the street at Wimbledon, I've had some moments. And you've got to figure it out. You've got to soothe yourself, and you have to calm down, and you have to carry on, right? Yeah. As, you know, you guys say here, you know, keep on and carry on.
Yeah, the thing about all these lessons, because they come from you, so you know you can cite being in the middle of a Wimbledon match. You know, in the book you talk about something that we talk about almost on a daily basis. You know, one of the easiest ways or the most effective ways to change your behavior is to change your situation, change your environment, change the company that you keep. Because if you want to do something, you can take away all the friction between it and you, but even better than that, just go and join a group of people who are already doing it and just join in. You know what I mean? Just join in climbing the mountain. You know, but being a Williams, you sort of had that, you know, from birth, didn't you? Because you had that gang doing the same thing as you wanted to do. You know, Serena, for example, Tiger Woods is often cited as, you know, who does he play against? At his peak, where was the competition? Who could make him better? He ran out of worthy competitors. So he apparently decided to play against history because it was still a competitor, virtual or real. Just speak to keeping the right company, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. You are who you hang out with.
Yeah.
And like you said, I had the honor of having great company in Serena. And I learned so much from her, too, because she was younger. She's younger by 15 months, but still younger, right? And she was the first in the family to win a Grand Slam, even though I was the first to be on tour. So I learned so much from her just by watching without her even saying a word. You know, by her courage and her character and her fearlessness. And I was like, oh, I want that too. That's how you win a major. So it's so interesting that just by doing something positive, you don't even have to say a word. You can influence someone else. So just by being around that kind of stuff, if you allow it, if you observe it, if you observe yourself and what you maybe lack or maybe want, and you surround yourself with those kinds of people, then you get it. I was so lucky to have that right at home, but I don't think Serena knew at the time because she was 17 years old, right? And what do you know at that age? But at that age, just by her doing something positive, being amazing, she didn't say a word, her actions spoke loud enough.
So when you, in the moment, you say you learned so much from her.
Yeah.
Were you aware of that learning in the moment, or have you looked back and since observed that was the case?
Oh, I was very aware. I was definitely very aware. I always say that, like, you know, I'm 6'2". What is that in centimeters? 187 maybe? Something like that. So I'm very tall. And I was this size almost by 13. So I was growing. I did not need to sit at a desk. I needed to play sports, right? So this person who's big and like all this athletic talent, but my heart was like the Grinch. You remember that guy? And, you know, he apparently got a big heart through the power of Christmas. I don't know if I believe it, but regardless, I had all this talent and this heart that really needed to grow. And I realized it. And so by watching Serena, I realized this is how you do it. And so because of that, you know, not through the power of Christmas, my heart grew and I learned how to be a champion.
So specifically from you, she always still does cite your superpower on the court as being calm. She said you were great at the calm. Were you aware of that? Was it something you cultivated? Is it your natural disposition?
I think it's probably a natural disposition, right? Because she's so fiery. But I love
What
seeing
star sign is she, by the way?
I don't know.
It's giving me trying to star sign it all out. She's not an Aries by any chance.
No idea. I don't know. But what I do know is that even though I wasn't as fiery on the outside, inside, you know, I was like a poker player. I'm still like playing my cards and winning. But also, in those moments I got fired up too, and you can feel that. And that's what sport is about, right?
Yeah.
Being able to go on this journey with this person who's playing a sport that is exactly like the life you're living. Yeah. Because when you live your life, you go through the same things. You got to fail, you've got to win, you've got to be resilient, you got to figure stuff out. And I think that's why people love sports so much, because it's happening in real time. There are no do-overs, and you have to step up. And sometimes you lose too. And that also is something you resonate with too, right? Yeah. Because people sometimes don't succeed in life. And it doesn't mean it's the end. It just means it's a moment to learn from.
And the human psychology is really interesting, isn't it? Because, grinners are winners, winners are grinners. That's something people say. And it's pretty much true. And obviously, the more sort of variables you put into that scenario, the more interesting that becomes. It's like the number of instruments and musicians in an orchestra. The bigger the orchestra, the potential for the brilliance increases. But of course, the risk of things going wrong, because you're only as good as your weakest link. When you're playing and you're winning, you have a different biochemistry, don't you, to you? And it's extraordinary because there is a different flow. And the easier it seems for you, the more difficult it gets for your opponent. And obviously, if you're present, then you can witness when it's the other way around. And then you have to zoom out, have the presence of mind to zoom out and say, okay, this is now happening to me. Oh, what do I do here? Just speak to an experience of that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're winning, you get into this flow, right?
Yeah.
And it almost is like when you catch every green light. The green lights just come, and it feels so good. And even if you're down or behind, you just feel like, I can win. Yeah. But then there's the moments where it's red light, right?
I know.
Whatever reason that is in life, right? Yeah. Sometimes we get sick, sometimes we lose our job, or whatever. It's staccato. So in that moment, you have to remember that it's not about the flow, it's about the process. Yeah. So if you've set up a good process in your life that you can continue to follow for success, because even for athletes, it's not always green. When it is green, it's amazing. But at the end of the day, winning is a process. And that process starts long before that match, you walk out for the match. So if you have your processes right, it doesn't matter how you feel that day, or if it's green, or if it's red, or if you've had, ups and downs, you can go back to your process. And then if you need to update your process for that moment in your life, then you do that. But I always tell people, and this was my process too, is that if I can figure out my process and I don't have to think, I can just do.
So the most important parts of our daily process then, I would imagine, would be just before we go to sleep and just when we wake up. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
I do agree, but I have to say that's my weakness.
Yeah, no, it's mine too. Doesn't mean it's not the most important thing. Yeah. So I heard a couple of things, right? So I heard that just before you go to sleep, if you say something positive to yourself, even if it's not true, it is the last thing that you hear. And apparently the last thing that you think of before you fall unconscious is automatically the first thing you think of when you wake up. So even if you make it up, and it's positive, it's better for you when you wake up the next day.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, especially if we're in a space where we need to work on it, or if we have something big we're planning for. You have a big meeting, it's like, it's going to go amazing tomorrow, right? Because you can also think, what if it doesn't go amazing? But I like the what ifs. You can frame your own what ifs, because anxiety is just the anticipation of a moment, right? It's not even real. Yeah. It's just something in your head. So if you can frame things in your head in a way that works for you, over time, it's just like any other muscle. You'll flex and you'll do exactly what you want, right? Grow the biceps, triceps, and the brain muscle.
Come on.
So I like that. I mean, my process in the morning is so bad, though, because of the snooze button.
Right. No,
I'm not a morning person. I can't do it.
Because our shows, you can sort of tell what the show is. I hope you can tell what kind of show we do here now. And so everybody that listens to the show, we're all go-getters.
Yeah.
We get life by the scruff of the neck every morning, every day. Well begun is half done. Own the day. I know it's all in the book. All this is in the book. But everybody who's listening to this show now wants to know Venus Williams' morning ritual.
Oh my gosh, it's definitely snooze. I am not a morning person. I feel like the morning should be done with. I know this is a morning show. I get it, but it shouldn't exist.
The morning shouldn't exist.
No, the day should start after lunch.
This
you know?
We'd be out of work. Thanks, Venus.
It could be.
I think tennis should be abolished immediately.
Tit for tat.
By the way, I really don't.
It could be like after lunch show.
Yeah,
you know, we normalize that.
Can you stop talking?
I'm sorry.
This is not great for business, is it?
Oh my God.
We've been bigging you up all week. She comes on and she trashes what we do for a living. There's no need for this morning nonsense.
The book does talk about honesty, so I can't help it.
No, I know. Honesty is really important. So we have lots of athletes on the show. We know lots of athletes. Thankfully, gratefully, we are incredibly, miraculously, unbelievably, we are friends with a lot of athletes because of the show. And a lot of the athletes we talk to who are world class, Paula Radcliffe, for example, super sleeper. She is a super sleeper. Still 12 hours a night, and she doesn't run professionally anymore. You know, we know that Usain Bolt is a 12 hours a night.
Yeah.
Tell us about you and sleep.
Yeah, I sleep as much as I can.
Do you actually?
And actually, one of the keys to longevity and health, as simple as it sounds, is a good sleep routine.
Yeah.
Or even for me, living with an autoimmune disease, sleep is so important for just my immune system.
Yeah.
And even researchers with longevity and living longer life, the people are looking to double lifespans. I'm interested to see how they're going to do it. But they say, as simple as it is, and all the research they're doing, sleep is like one of the top 5 things.
Yeah.
So if you can figure out your sleep routine, then it's golden.
Yeah, it is golden.
But I'm a super sleeper. I called myself Sleeping Beauty, but then my sisters, such haters, they called me Rip Van Winkle. But I don't know if you guys know Rip here, do you?
Yeah, of course, Rip.
Of course. Okay, you know Rip here. Yeah, and I was like, that's
so on
bad.
average, how many hours a night do you sleep?
It depends. Like when I'm traveling and working a lot, it's hard. You know,
Yeah,
I get what I can. But in a
ideally.
perfect world, like at least 8.
Right. So
Yeah,
a
at
good
least
8.
Yeah.
And is that
8.
straight through, or do you wake up?
Usually straight through. Wow. Yeah, it depends on the dream.
Yeah.
You know?
And you only remember dreams if you're waking up anyway, don't you? That's the thing.
Exactly.
So, and do you fall asleep quite easily?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh, see,
yeah,
you are a super sleeper, aren't you?
I'm very lucky, yeah.
I wonder if there are any like world-class athletes who don't sleep very well.
I don't feel like my sister sleeps up very well. She would just do a few hours and then somehow still win majors all the time.
Yeah, that must be really annoying.
Yeah, I should have just called her all night. You know, all those Wimbledon finals she beat me in.
I mean, what an extraordinary life you've had anyway. And hopefully we all get our own version of that. But to have this thing with your sibling on the world stage, that's quite incredible, isn't it?
It was so much fun.
Yeah, of course.
And I you know, it's so interesting too because part of it you take for granted. My only experience is playing professional tennis with my sister. Yeah. So when I think about other people that they didn't do that with a sibling, it just seems weird.
Yeah.
And then even like our experiences on the doubles court, I just am so grateful for. Like, can you imagine playing with Serena Williams and like you're standing at the net and then the serve comes in at 125 ace and then the next one, like you don't even do any work.
Hey, go on, sis. And you get half the money.
You just go, exactly.
It's cool, man.
Exactly.
Press us. It's a bit like... Anyway.
We had so much fun.
We talked about process before. The great thing about process is if you keep repeating the right process, you will achieve progress. And progress is movement. And movement is what sparks joy. Movement is the vehicle for joy. Because none of us know why we're here. But at least if we progress on a daily basis, you figure out there might be a reason we're here, but we don't know what it is. And that's why it's so important. And the thing about if you meet somebody like a wild player, whether it's on the tennis court or whether it's doing a radio show and you hear somebody who's extraordinary, you know, a sort of one-off, then that's fine, that's great, until people who are fans of process figure out how to do what this new person is doing. And then you beat them because you figured out the process.
Yes.
So process always wins, as long as you like the process you're doing. And if it's difficult, maybe it's not for you. Doesn't mean it's not hard, does it? It's hard work, but it's not on hard mode.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. I completely agree.
And so you got up every day, you made it fun, it was fun, you with Serena, and you speak later on in the book about spinning plates, don't you?
Yes.
You know, and it's fine to spin plates for a while, but you can't keep spinning plates because you will break down, and you should break down, because how heavy is a glass of water? Depends how long you hold it for. You'll end up the heaviest thing you've ever held in your life. And so when you talk about spinning a plate, you say it's fine, but actually in the end, just do the most important thing at the time. Do what's in front of you.
Exactly. And Chris, you're so wise. I love it. I can listen to you forever.
I've read a lot of these books.
I'm a fangirl. But in any case, yes, it's true. And it's about prioritizing life, right?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that we do live in a system. And so in a lot of ways, you have to figure out how to beat the system, create your own system.
Right.
So what is the best use of your time and the most powerful use of your time, and how do you use your time wisely? And so when you start to set up your life like that, you start to roll. You start to roll through the process. So you can spin more plates, you know, on all 10 fingers, maybe not forever, but it gives you that freedom to be more powerful in how effective you are.
And it's fine to double up for a while.
Yeah,
but not forever. I always think if you sort of bracket, say, look, I'm going to go all in on too many things, but only for 2 weeks. That'll be okay, I think.
And sometimes it's 2 months or 2 years, but it can't be for 20, 30, 40, 50.
Yeah.
Like,
and give yourself a peak to summit.
Exactly. And also in life, I find that you're always, especially if you're going for things, or even if you are working and you have a family, right? Raising a family is the most important thing and the most important job in the world. It's a lot of work.
If one can,
right? If one can, and you have that honor if you want to. So life is quite busy and with so many challenges, but if you can figure out, you have to make a plan to put that process in place, as well with finding balance in life of how you're going to get there. And sometimes it takes a few months to set that up. Yeah. You can't wake up one day and be like, yeah, I'm quitting. You know, it's like, okay, in XYZ amount of time, I'd like to reach this point. Yeah, and maybe it's just taking one plate off at a time, but you get there.
And then the compound interest kicks in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like winning the lottery, but it's every single day. How did this happen? Well, because you've been sowing the seeds forever, and you've been tending the flowers, and you've been watering them on hot days, and you've been giving them some kind of care on cold and when it's too wet.
Yes.
And if you're not enjoying the process, you're in the wrong lane. Would you say?
You are. And it's okay to change lanes. You know, would you stay in the slow lane on the highway if it wasn't progressing? Absolutely not. Hopefully you're changing lanes and you're zooming through, right? And it's the same thing in life. And if you keep it simple, the simple answer is always the right one. When you make it complicated, it's usually not the right answer.
But simple doesn't mean easy. It just means simple.
Yes, it's normally the easiest way through, even if it's hard. Yeah. Sometimes the easiest way is actually the hardest because it's just forever and there's no progress.
Yeah. Easy ends up being the hard way, and the hard way can end up being the easy
way. The painful way.
Long term, the painful way. If it hurts and you're heading in the right direction, that's not a bad thing.
Well, growth comes from discomfort.
Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah, maybe just it's mental discomfort. Sometimes it's physical. Sometimes it's emotional discomfort. Yeah. But if you can kind of accept that, then it's fine.
And so I've got a guess here. I'm only guessing, right? This is Strive.
Yes.
I'm hoping it's a 2-book deal minimum, and the next one's called Thrive.
This book, writing the book, took at least 2 years.
Right.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I've written 2 books in the last 15 years because the amount of work that it is.
Yeah.
But I've been playing around with the new title, and it's called I Made This Mistake So You Don't Have To.
All right, nice.
Like, that would be a fun one, but maybe it is Strive. Maybe it's like Thrive or something like that.
So, they say experience is going through things and learning how, when the stuff goes well, how to repeat that. And when stuff doesn't go well, how not to repeat that. Yeah. And they say wisdom is learning from other people's experiences so you don't have to go through it. So that's that book, isn't it? You're also busy in the movie business. Couldn't be any busier. What's this Copper 71?
Oh, wow.
Tell us about that, if you can.
Yes, it's an amazing, amazing documentary about the Women's World Cup in 1971 and how it was virtually erased out of history. It was so successful. It was so huge and it was so big. And the higher-ups couldn't handle that women's sports could be at this amazing level. So just telling the story and remembering and giving honor to that. And now seeing women's sports just start to explode, right? It's so exciting. And investing in women is not only the right thing, but it's actually lucrative.
Well,
right? That's what people are finding out.
That's the point,
Yes.
isn't it? I was going to say that. About time too. A+, it's going to make shed loads of money for people.
Yeah.
And of course it should happen. But the point is, lots of things should happen, but they don't until the money says yes, unfortunately. But there's a lot of money in those there hills, and people are just realizing it now. Duh.
Yeah.
And you know, this is an exciting time for you. But there are other movies as well. Every time you get involved in a movie, it's about getting a message across, isn't it? It's not just fun because you haven't got time.
Yeah, I think you have to tell the stories that you're passionate about,
Yeah.
that you have experience with, that you believe in,
Yeah.
or else you can't tell the story, right?
Also, it's easier, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
easier. And if it's easier from the source to tell the story, it's more articulate, and then it lands better to the audience you're trying to get the message across to.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
You're in a good place. Have you always been so sorted? Have you? I mean, I know you had, but 2011 was a big deal.
Yeah.
And that's ongoing, isn't it? So you have to look after yourself. But even philosophically, even then, you seem to cope with it really, really well.
Yeah, I coped with it a lot of karaoke. I should have recorded some tracks and
Karaoke.
sent them here, but
Karaoke,
yeah,
baby.
yeah, that was my happy place.
What's your go-to karaoke?
At the time, I was more of an amateur, so I went with Britney Spears' "Toxic."
Right.
Can you imagine I sang "Born to Be Alive"?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Well, born.
Yes, born to be alive.
Born to be alive.
And we had dance routines.
Because
too,
I was
it's ridiculous.
born. Toxic's quite a difficult karaoke
It's
song.
actually because it's in falsetto and it's very hard to sing. Yeah, yeah, but it was really fun.
Do you have a karaoke setup at home? God, I bet you do.
I do.
What's the Williams karaoke setup like?
Sometimes I travel with a karaoke mic. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
What? Just the all-in-one?
The all-in-one.
The all-in-one's great.
It really
I love
is.
the all-in. You got all the teams should have an all-in-one.
Everyone should. It's once you start singing, you actually get really happy, even on the worst day.
You do, absolutely, 100%. Well, music is what feelings sound like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Venus, you're the best.
Thank you.
You did
so
not
much.
disappoint.
I had so much fun with
Even
you guys.
if you'd have been rubbish, you would have still been brilliant. But you were brilliant, which means you're off the chart. So it's great. Strive, 8 Steps to Train for Success. It is a great, great book. Venus Williams with Myatt Murphy. It's out now.